deer in with our nuts and berries. So. Hello, welcome to Measure of Success, Deer Season 2018, Episode 6. This week, we show you a hanging hunt where Brent and I snuck in next to a bedding area and a couple scrapes, but didn't have much action until we got down and actually relocated to a ground setup. Ended up being in the middle of a chase right at dark. And then, we'll show you a hunt from the same location where I actually snuck back in a week later and hid out in an old shed that's on the property that's got some windows that are conducive to shooting out of. It is November 9th, the day before rifle season starts here in Arkansas. That is a moot point here in town because rifle hunting is not allowed. We packed our stands in and did a hanging hunt this morning. Got them in the tree before the sun came up. We're in here today. I don't know if you can see over my shoulder, it's really thick back here. And there's several rubs and scrapes in there. And what a lot of these bucks do is they'll check that scrape line down here on the downwind side right along the edge of this thick stuff. So we're in here just trying to catch one doing that today. So it was actually a really slow morning. We didn't say anything after the interview, and we gave it till about 3 o'clock. Alright, it's about 3 o'clock. We haven't seen any deer since about 9:30 or so. So we're actually getting down out of the tree, and a lot of the deer, the deer we saw today were kind of up in that area, or that's the way they came from or went. So we're going to slide right up the side of this ditch and maybe try to find us a spot to set up there, a little bit closer to where the deer are at, or where we think they're at. So we'll see. I don't know. It seems like a Hail Mary, but it's November 9th, so you can get away with some stuff. So let's see what happens. So as we slipped up there, you'll see some of the big rubs that we were talking about. And we're kind of circling around the edge of this bedding area to get a little bit closer to the entry trail that we saw the deer going in and out of in the morning. So we set up next to those big trees.
He's right over there, but the big buck went that way.
And we actually had the buck we were after come through, but Brent couldn't get him on camera. And this little guy came in across the ditch from us, sniffed around a little bit, and then wandered off. And then right before dark, we found ourselves right in the middle of the chase. This doe is actually about 5 to 10 yards out in front of us. And you'll see a little spike comes in here behind. He's the one pushing her. He wanders behind that thick brush. And he actually pops out over here to the right at about 15 or 20 yards from us. And then he just continues down that ditch. And after that, we packed up and got out of there. Unfortunately, the big 10-pointer that we'd seen earlier in the day wasn't following either one of them. A couple weeks ago, Brent and I hunted out of tree stands in the morning, back over here about 250 yards away. And we didn't see a whole lot. And then we got down. And we came over here and set up right by this old shed. And we saw several deer filtering through these pines behind me and then off out here over to the side. We'll see what happens. If we'd have been in here last time we were here, we would have had that big 10-pointer. He walked right across this opening in these pines. Probably about 25, 30 yards. So
This buck actually surprised me, and I probably wouldn't have even seen him if he hadn't broke a pretty big twig on his way in. He came from down around where that scrape's at, and I'm looking at him out the door of the shed right now. He went around the north end of the shed. And I had to move the camera around to get out the back windows of that shed. Right here, he's actually about 20 feet away from that shed. He just wanders out down this row of cut pines. Out past the pines, and most likely kept going out to a subdivision that's over here off kind of to the right and ahead. And if you can hear, the rain had kind of picked up and was now beating down on top of the shed. And then shortly after he came through, I actually had a group of does come up, and they surprised me on the back side of the shed, and I wasn't able to get them videotaped. And they came around the end of the shed. There's probably about 4 or 5 of them. They milled around out here for several minutes. And then when that doe took off trotting like that, I thought for sure she was being pushed. But I never did see a buck. The other doe stood there for a few minutes and then wandered off down the hill. And then about 10 or 15 minutes later, this deer came up the hill, and I was trying to make sure that I got it on video, and I didn't notice that it was a buck until I actually watched the video. So this was the little guy that was pushing those does, I would imagine. And he walks up here, walks within 20 yards of me, but there's just a lot of brush in the way, and he was too small.
So that'll do it for episode 6. We hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned for episode 7. We're working on editing it right now. It's one of the most interesting encounters that we've ever had in the woods, so you want to make sure and check that out when we get it posted. We're done shooting a crossbow. We're going to retire inside and hunker down here on this cold Saturday. Maybe see if we don't get a deer to come through the backyard. So have a blessed week.